Hi, welcome to Google Plus Week. I am Dan McDermott, your host in Bentonville, Virginia. We have a great panel. Let me introduce these folks real quick. From New York, we have Mr. Alan Firstenberg. Welcome, Alan, as always.
Hey, Dan, always good to be here.
In Lynchburg, Virginia, we have Mr. Bruce Turner. Welcome you. Welcome to you, Bruce.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Monica, I don't remember where you are.
I am in Boulder, Colorado.
Relaxing in Boulder, Colorado.
Yep.
Your Sreek could not be here tonight, or was going to be late, and he's always relaxing, so you're filling in for Sreek tonight. So good
Okay.
for you. And then Margie, you are,
Because
I
the
forget
two
where.
of you look so much alike.
Well, just only because they're both lying down on a couch.
Channeling Sreek.
Indeed. Margie, I forget what town you're in.
Vicksburg, Mississippi.
That's right. Biloxi, where's it?
Vicksburg.
Vicksburg. Okay, the greater metropolitan Vicksburg region of Mississippi. All right, we've got our official first topic is pretty heavy stuff, so we'll get to that in just a second. But I got a couple quick notes. One, I donated to Wikipedia today, and I would encourage you to do that. It's a great service, and I did a post on it. We had a good conversation about it. Folks saying, "Oh, it's not reliable." The way to use Wikipedia is to get the gist of something, and you'll find that most of the time it is reliable. But use the sources at the bottom and go to those original sources and references and external links, and that's the best way to use it. But consider donating. It's a great free service. They don't take ads, and I donated. You can too. I'm not going to tell you how much I donated because I don't want people hitting me up. All right, so I got this. The other thing I want to show you is my nifty Nexus 7 case. It's like $15 at Amazon. It's by Blurex, one word, Blurex. I saw a review. Someone was like, it's so awesome. Anyway, it holds it like this, so you can set it here or here. Also, you can flip it this way, and it's got a little rubber band. $15. It's pleather. It's faux leather. It's leatherette. And it's got a little thing here, a little strap, which sort of works. Oh, it does if you plug it back in here. And then it's got all the holes, all the spaces to plug everything in. And then you can lock it up, and it's cool looking. You look like some kind of, rich guy, but it's really $15 on Amazon. And then finally, it's Stinkbug season. It's just starting up. Regular viewers of the program, long-term viewers, will remember that I am often attacked by swarms of them during the show because they like the hot lights. So the quick Google search issue, I did a search for review great Stinkbug trap or something. And the first one I got to, it was a link to Amazon, and I looked at the reviews, and it was like everyone was 1 star. Pages and pages. This sucks. This is horrible. It's a scam. I'm suing them. And like 5-6 pages of these. And I'm thinking, why don't the first 4 pages, why didn't they read the 5th page before they bought it? I don't understand. But I'm trying to find a good Stinkbug trap. And I know there's a YouTube video, but I am not interested in spending an hour and a half on some do-it-yourself project. I am Tim Taylor. And so if you have any suggestions, please comment away. And we are monitoring the live comments on YouTube and Google Plus, YouTube Live. So there you have it. That's my light, fun stuff. Now let's get to across the Middle East. There are violent demonstrations going on, and how this relates, it's obviously a topic we're all discussing. There's this guy, he's an Egyptian. Alan is Coptic. What is it, Margie?
They are reporting that he's a Coptic Christian.
That's an Egyptian Christian. That's what that is. That's an Egyptian. I've met some Egyptian Christians, and they were very down on the Mubarak government. They were. Anyway, this guy, apparently, AP, I think, reported that, or ABC News, someone reported that he wrote this movie in prison. So he got actors. I watched part of it. I'm not going to post the link for a lot of reasons, but a friend of mine who I won't say, but she knows who she is and she wants to say she can, but share with me the thing. If you watch, you don't even get 3 minutes into it before you can, at about 2:55, you see the first dub. This is the worst thing that these guys did. Not only, freedom of speech is fine, but obviously you have to, just like this Bible burning guy, or the Quran burner, and people were killed in Afghanistan because of this. There's a responsibility that comes with free speech. I know that I'm a newspaper publisher. You know, you have to. It's a decision. You have the right to speak. You have the right to not speak. It's your call. And this guy has caused deaths. I'm sure all these actors and actresses are in hiding, and they were lied to. They say, and if you look at the movie, like at 2:55, they mention Mohammed, and the guy's voice is one way before, and then when he says the name, that sentence, it's clearly a different voice and with a different acoustic environment. Then it goes back to his regular voice. So they changed the script to get him to do it, because who the heck would make a movie like this? You know, you'd be Salman Rushdie in hiding the rest of your life. So this does not, obviously, I'm not apologizing for these protesters. I'm not forgiving violence. I'm not condoning that in any way. But I'm saying that this is a bad guy, and that I feel sorry for these actors and actresses who thought, you know, just trying to get a gig, and now they're probably for the rest of their lives going to be in hiding. And I want to go to Margie's thoughts, and then Alan. Bruce, did you have a viewer comment on this?
Yeah, there is a viewer comment here. You can pick that up. This is from Nikki Chalemi. She says it's not about a stinky, poorly acted B film. These attacks were planned well in advance and to coincide with 9/11. She says the administration knew about the attacks 48 hours before they happened and didn't beef up security at U.S. embassies. It's not about the movie. It's radical Islam against the USA.
Well, yes and no. I agree with you. That is apparently the deal with the Libyan issue, but they are demonstrating in different countries over this movie. So this was, I guess, used as an excuse, as they do. You know, it's not hard to find something that you can rally people. And frankly, these are not, you know, I don't want to get into, these are not your average, ordinary folks, I don't think. But anyway, Margie, one of the issues that there was some criticism about, and I'll tell you, I think Google absolutely made the right call when they, excuse me, when they pulled the YouTube video in certain countries where there were protests. I think Egypt and Libya. Two countries we just helped liberate, and they're blaming us because some Egyptian guy made a movie and posted it on YouTube. So it's America's fault. I'm not sure why the hell they're protesting us. But I think they made the right call. What do you think, Margie?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think they did make the right call of actually pulling the video. But as we know with YouTube, you know, someone's going to download it. It's always going to keep on uploading. So I haven't actually seen the entire movie of it. I've seen about something that had like 13 minutes of it. So I don't know how long the actual entire movie was. But
it's
So
a
can I
ghetto
correct
movie,
this
isn't
here?
it? It's
Dan,
horribly
can
done. Monica?
I'd like to correct this here. You linked to the New York Times, and it actually says, the New York Times says, Google blocked access to it in 2 of the countries in turmoil, Egypt and Libya, but did not remove the video from its website. So it was not pulled.
Oh,
from
yeah, that's
YouTube,
what I said. I
Yeah,
said
but it just
Yeah.
blocked access.
just blocked it, and
Yeah.
it's not available in those 2 countries.
exactly.
But you can
I mean,
still
it's
see it
in
here.
the U.S. I mean, like I said, I saw some of it today, and people are going to continue, like I said, if uploading, because people want to know what it's about. But it's really sad when you think about when you do see these clips, even if you're seeing just, you know, the trailer of it or those 2-3 minute clips of it that are available, you see how cheesy and poorly done this movie is, and you're thinking, my God, you know, there were loss of lives over some cheesy, poorly done movie. It wasn't called for. Now, this is one thing I don't understand with it. There are tons of clips and movies and stuff against Islam or Christianity or whatever religion all over YouTube. Why now? How did this movie go viral that many people in the Middle
Because
East?
these
That's
Well,
what I
no,
people wanted to attack us. Alan, it all
ahead.
started with the Libya thing. They wanted to attack us. They wanted to find an excuse, so they went looking for something, and they found it, and then they rallied everyone up, and these people get all freaked out, and they want to kill Americans, and they're all being lied to, and it's a way to prop up their movement. As long as they have an enemy, then they don't concentrate on the fact that they're in economic devastation because these the rich rulers are persecuting them and ripping them off. It's like the mafia is in charge over there. and we prop them up when they're friendly to us, and we bomb them when they're not friendly to us, and they hate us, and we tolerate that. I think that there was a post. I have not verified this, but I think that the guys that in Egypt on their American Twitter feed, they posted something like, our prayers go out to the innocent Americans from our friends in America, blah, 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 or something like that. And the same outfit in their Arabic Twitter feed, the people are demonstrating for the victory of the prophet or something. I mean, it was it was like MSNBC versus Fox News, but the same anchor, just speaking one language, the other. It's, I guess, like some of the Arabic news stations. Their English and Arabic versions have a slightly different spin.
I just want to throw in really quickly. I'm like, everyone, all the news media, reports it as radical Islam, extremist Islam. And many of us are wondering, is this radical or is this just regular Islam? Because we don't know. There's so much that we don't know about Islam and how people.
It's radical. Most people want a spouse, kids, a dog, a job. They want to live in peace.
There were many pictures
but if the tenets of their religion is violent, and we are oblivious to it, because we're trying to defend this or that, and we're not sure. Because how can you say something's not radical and not extremist if you are not a Muslim, you are not reading the Quran, and you're not practicing it? It's hard for any of us to say what is or isn't radical.
The plane that lands, I think it's a pretty easy call. The plane that lands that safely, no one reports about. The plane crash is what gets reported on. All the people who don't, are like this time, as Monica's about to say, tell us about these signs that were in Libya after this incident.
So there were many, many signs that were photographed afterwards of normal, ordinary citizens saying, these attacks do not represent us or our views. We are very, very sorry.
I thought it was very touching.
How do we really know which signs are genuine and sincere or not? I think I don't agree with everything. I haven't seen the movie. I don't want to see the movie. I have no interest in seeing the movie. I'm not going to click.
You're not missing much, Bruce.
All
right, but I will say this. This is not about the movie. And something that Margie was saying, the thing that really concerns me, I have to take exception and disagree with you about Google polling. I don't want anybody deciding who can see what, when, and where. I mean, there are many, many really caustic things against other faiths that, in fact, I posted this post in Google Plus. And here's what it says. Go figure. How twisted can minds get when essential elements of a faith says, if you dare call my religion intolerant and hateful, we will kill you, destroy your property until you apologize and agree that we are loving and peaceful.
Bruce, they got to protect their staff.
This is a radical element. I understand that. But I don't want anybody, somebody needs to understand and learn what it means to have a freedom of speech. And with freedom of speech does come responsibility. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. But I don't want Google deciding who can see what. I'm not that way. And, I'm a really conservative person. I just, I don't want them to...
And I think in this case, Google is trying to be as selective as they can, although I'm not entirely sure it's effective in this case. They're not saying, look, we're going to deny people from seeing this movie. They're just saying, we're not going to add more gasoline to the fire. So to try to prevent more gasoline from being thrown on the fire, we're going to block it at the moment.
The only way you can learn how to put out fires is do what firemen do and airports do. But you have a fire to learn how to put it out. And people have got to grow up.
This is the same. And again, they're not saying we're going to block this permanently. They're just saying we're trying to stop the immediate effect. I don't think it's effective in this case because I think the immediate effect has nothing to do with the movie.
But that's something we need to talk about. Why do we have to always hush anything down about Islam? Every day, most of us that are on Google Plus, we that are Christians, we see attacks against Christianity and Jesus over and over again. All that stuff ends up in what's hot over and over again. We do not go and find some, Arab person or a Muslim living in the United States and go and bomb them. And no, we do not.
You do too. I'm sorry.
No, we don't.
No, you do too. There are plenty of acts of violence against Muslims here.
So
plenty of acts against non-Muslims claiming to be, that everyone thinks are Muslims.
Look,
I'm
sure that the government,
everyone.
Margie.
So one of the reasons I think that basically Google wanted to calm things down is partly because of the very heated tone of the discussion here. If this can be viewed as kind of a microcosm of the scope of the entire heated debate and some of the flames that would have spread across the Arabic world or the Middle Eastern world as a result, maybe this can give us a viewpoint for how explosive it could have gotten.
Perhaps literally explosive. Monica,
Literally
remember, they have
explosive.
people on the ground in Egypt. One of their executives in Google was a leader over there of the revolution. When they killed that girl, so we are all, or whatever it was, they have people in the Middle East. They have offices and staff there. And out of safety for their employees. I mean, they could literally have someone send a truck bomb into Googleplex over this if they let this thing go. They've got to think about their physical safety. Bruce, I think, I mean, I'm a freedom of speech guy, okay? But I
have a
think
link to the Supreme Court decision from World War I, the one that's commonly referred to as shouting fire in a crowded theater, which is called the Schenck case, Schenck. And if anyone is concerned about that, I would encourage you. It was a historic decision, and it relates to the Espionage Act of 1917, and it's about, the court basically decided why a man falsely shouting fire in a crowded theater, causing a panic, why that would be a restriction on the freedom of speech that would be justified.
okay, we got to go. Let me ask on this issue, Bruce. Let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
the people who protest at military funerals, the whatever church, evil, vile, crazy
Church
people.
of the Incestuous Families, yes.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like a extended family.
Right.
Westboro Baptist.
Westboro Baptist. The guy who, let's say a guy wants to burn the Quran, that Terry, whatever his name is, right? Let's say that every day he gets in a Google Hangout and burns Muhammad in effigy and then starts burning Qurans live on Googleplex. Would you have a problem with Googleplex saying you can't do that? I don't think it's a specific violation of their terms of service.
The more
they made a judgment call?
that idiots like the Westboro Baptist Church or like this other preacher about burning the Quran, the more they are allowed to do their thing, the more people realize how really dumb and stupid and foolish and idiotic it is, and they lose credibility. So sometimes you have to let the dirty junk that people do come out so that people can realize what idiots they are. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
nothing's going to change this medieval culture.
You're exactly right.
But the fact is, if it was my company, and if it was on my dime, and I'm paying for the storage and the streaming, sometimes even if it's not a specific violation of the terms of service, I'm going to say, people are going to be killed over this thing, and.
We got a great comment by Kevin Bryan here. He says, if Google starts censoring, Google will be seen as not just a carrier of links to content, but in some way responsible for the content.
They censor all kinds of stuff.
Well, copyright issues, certainly.
Stuff that's offensive in certain countries. In China. Why don't you Google Tiananmen Square in Beijing and see what you get? That's far more innocuous than this.
And should they be censoring that in China?
I guess now they're out of China, but in certain countries they censor stuff like that.
Google did not remove
you can
the video.
choose. Do you want to be a world company or do you want to be stuck in the USA? I'm sorry, but anyway, so we all agree.
I would argue that because they did not remove the video, they did not censor it. That they just basically blocked access at a sensitive time.
Censorship technically is not the removal or deletion; it's the review of the process. It's reviewing something for purposes of censoring it or deleting it. So they said but in common language, it's censorship.
All of this is all very much up for debate, but all of this is all very much a process. And I would argue that this is a very good judgment call considering how much of a time bomb it can be in the Middle East.
If they can piss off a few free speechers and save some lives, it's a good call. Go ahead. Last comment, Bruce.
Yeah, this is from Abracadabra. The Al-Qaeda was obviously behind the attack on the American embassy in Libya, and incidents like this are the reason why Europe and the U.S. are reluctant to equipping the Syrian rebels with heavy weaponry. And yet we're going to give $1.5 billion to Egypt so they can buy 2 U-boats from Germany. Won't that be nice if the Muslim Brotherhood can control the port of Suez and other places like that? You know, just a lot of things happening that just don't make sense. But I think it's probably time to move on.
Okay, Steve Wozniak. This was a great story. This, as usual, all the links to all the stuff we're talking about will be in the description, under the video, and are in the posts, so you can follow along the actual stories. Steve Wozniak, of course, is the co-founder of Apple, and he addressed the Samsung case where Samsung lost. Apple won a $1.1 billion verdict against them, alleging that they had violated Apple's patents. And then everyone's suing everybody in different countries, and they're all winning and losing in different places. But his quote was here. They asked him, "What do you think about? What do you think about this verdict?" "I hate it," Wozniak told Bloomberg in Shanghai, referring to the patent battle. "I don't think the decision of California will hold, and I don't agree with it. Very small things. I don't really call that innovative. I wish everybody would just agree to exchange all the patents, and everyone can build the best forms they want to use everyone's technologies." He also had some comments about the iPhone 5. He hadn't bought one yet. He's going to play with it before he gives his opinion. He has one hope. He says he hopes the new iPhone 5 will take better photos than its Android counterparts. Quote, "A better quality on the pictures will mean a lot." This is the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, because when I show people pictures on my iPhone 4 and my Galaxy S3, they always say the Galaxy S3 or even the Motorola Razr pictures look better. I found that really, that's very interesting. This is not really, I guess, a lengthy topic. Hopefully not as lengthy as our first topic. But what do you think, Alan?
Woz is always a fun guy. I mean, he calls him as he sees him. He's an engineer. He's got an engineer's mindset. And quite honestly, he's out to have the best of the best. I mean, he's the guy who will show up online outside an Apple store to get an Apple, to get a new MacBook Air or to get the new iPad. He goes and he buys his own Android devices because he wants to see what they are. Woz is, just a fundamentally nice guy.
Yeah, I like him. I remember when I don't know if it was the first iPhone or the iPad or whatever, and he was just in line with everybody. He didn't get a pre-copy, he just...
Well, he did get a pre-copy. Apple ships him all their hardware, but he still stands in line to get his own.
And I imagine maybe some cameras were there.
Right, and well, no. He doesn't actually go to seek that out. But and when I say stands in line, usually somebody lets him cut in front of them, and nobody else complains.
There's probably a rush to be the person who gets to let him cut in front of you.
But fundamentally, he's a great guy. This is a great quote from Kevin that Bruce is showing us. Kevin, Woz rules. That is all. That's really what it boils down to.
Indeed. He's as much as I despise Apple and the way they behave, you got to love Steve Wozniak. He's awesome. And then we are looking at all your comments as they come in on YouTube and Google+. So please keep them coming. Comments, questions, whatever you want. We can't do them all because it's so crazy, but we are there, and I'll occasionally just show them up here, so we're actually not ignoring you. All right. Next up, I should have had this handy. Too many tabs open. Okay.
Right, and speaking of patents, next up was that Google is kind of saying, okay, we learned our lesson from this whole Apple Samsung thing. We're going to have to start getting aggressive about patents ourselves now.
And the phrase that the vice president said, one of the senior VPs, he said it was a wake-up call.
Yeah, I mean, I think Google's been playing for too long, saying, okay, everyone can play nice, and I guess they're kind of smacked with the harsh reality of Apple.
Wonder if they could. Wonder how many patents Kodak did. Anthony from
Do you
Rochester.
really think this is a realistic future scenario, though?
I
What,
think
of endless patent wars, Monica?
Yeah, endless patent wars. This is not gonna. This can't go on forever.
they're going to be buying
Something's
patents.
gotta
It's going to
give.
be buying the patents is the new arms race, and it's going to be like we haven't seen since the Cold War, unless Congress intervenes.
Oh yeah.
It's not the new arms race, though. There's nothing new about the patent wars.
And I would hope we get a sane Congress. I am praying we get a sane Congress, and they, Lord knows we need it.
We all appreciate
One
your
can hope,
optimism.
right?
Oh, that's a great joke, Monica. Thank
Yeah.
you for that laugh.
Maybe
this
they
evening.
should start
Thanks.
with tort reform.
A light moment after the Mideast topic. Anthony in Rochester, New York. By the way, I went to a Wegmans for the first time. I know you're a big Wegmans guy, and I absolutely was impressed. I think it was mind-bogglingly awesome. The Whole Foods in Fairfax, which I think is one of their most fancy ones, is the only thing that comes close. But I like Wegmans because they have real stuff. It's not just like organic stuff. It's just an awesome store. I was very impressed.
Is that what we're calling it now? Real stuff if it's not organic?
No, I mean like stuff you'd buy. You can't just live out of Whole Foods. I guess you could. But real quick question. Did Kodak sell their patents? I think.
Actually, Dan, that's a really good question because that's breaking news today. Do you have more details on this, Anthony?
Because he's where they are.
Actually, no, I don't.
All right, while you guys do that, let's go to Bruce's comment
No.
while you and
Okay.
Anthony brush up on that. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah. Kevin Bryan says, to Apple, sow the wind and reap the whirlwind. They've been winning rulings so far, but they may not win in the future unless they learn to settle.
I think if you own a company and you want to sell and you have any patents that could be used in a phone, I think you should call Google, and they may be a little interested. What did you hear about the Kodak patents? I was just thinking because I can't imagine how many patents they have that could be construed to be stolen in somebody's phone. Like this ridiculous rounded corner thing. Are you kidding me? The tablets, the iPads in Star Trek had rounded corners.
Let's deal with that another time. I'm trying to read up quickly on what's going on with the Kodak patents. As you know, Kodak's in Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and basically their biggest asset is their 1100 patent library, and apparently they've been trying to auction it off, but there have been a number of problems with the auction process. They've postponed the auction's final sale 4 times so far, and they've been negotiating with the usual mix of suspects, and have been unable to reach any
Acceptable sales.
acceptable sale. So apparently they were looking for about $2.6 billion, and the bids have been coming in around $250 million. So we're talking an order of magnitude lower.
So that's less.
Yeah, an order of magnitude less, like a lot less.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I haven't read anything specifically saying as much, and I don't know if it's just because it's speculation or otherwise, but I mean, it kind of seems to me like these companies were maybe lowballing Kodak because they knew that they were, in desperate times, and I mean...
Yeah, you're trying to take advantage of somebody.
I mean, what was the other major company that sold the patents to make money maybe like a year and a half ago? That a big continuum got together.
The consortium, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't RIMS patents.
No.
I know who you're talking about, though. Yeah.
I mean,
that Apple and Microsoft bought as a consortium.
That seemed to sell for what seemed to be an acceptable price. So, I mean, maybe I'm just like completely, out of bounds to say that these companies were lowballing Kodak. But I think this is, obviously just hearing about this now, I think this is a good thing because if you can't sell the patents for what they're worth, then why would you, sell them just to make, a few bucks when you think that you should be making like, $20? Why get $2 when you think that you should be getting like $20, essentially?
Yeah,
this
so
is-
obviously this is continuing. Go ahead, Bruce. What now from Kevin?
Exactly. He says if Motorola, and this has been an interesting topic of discussion since Google acquired them, if Motorola sues Apple and it goes to trial, then Apple is in serious trouble. They have some real patents that will threaten Apple in fundamental ways.
Well, and this is actually kind of related to Apple's announcement this week. The fact that they have phones that are the iPhone 5 will be doing LTE. Both HTC and Samsung have said, well, okay, in that case, we've got a lawsuit because they haven't licensed key technology from us. And the retort that I've heard is basically boiled down to, well, it's not really key technology, so they don't really need it. So,
was that a Freudian slip? Retort?
Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Okay. So
these puns really suit you. You know that, Bruce?
Yes, I am the pun master.
Bruce is a good guy, even if his puns are occasionally weak. Okay. So are we good on that?
We're always good on that, Dan.
Okay, so Google's going to buy a bunch of companies that have patents and screw Apple is the gist of it, and good for them. Okay, there was this story, really interesting story, Alan, and I read a new take on it today. That are you mocking me just then? Did Acer kill a phone after a threat from Google? But then we got a new thing came out, a new take on it from Danny Sullivan from Search Engine Land. You're up on this. I'll tell you what Danny Sullivan said, and then you can intro the topic. He said that he doesn't think that the way it was described, and I saw the link, and the post had been deleted, and it wasn't even cached at Google from Alibaba. But he said he doesn't think that that's the situation. He said because they can't control it. He said they can't control whether you can use Android. But it might have been about a future branded product, like maybe they were in discussions about them producing a Nexus something or whatever. Like they did with it was
Right,
Acer with what they did with the Nexus 7 from Asus. But you
Right,
want to explain what this is and what your take is on it, you
Sure.
guys?
The story here is that there were rumors going around that Acer was apparently going to be releasing, I don't remember if it was a phone or a tablet, a new device that was using an operating system from a Chinese company. And the rumor continued to say that Google told Acer to kill it because if Acer didn't kill it, then they were going to lose their license from Google. And a lot of people kind of saw that and said, oh, wait a minute, you don't necessarily get a license from Google to use Android. And there are plenty of companies that are producing both Android versions of a product and a Windows Phone version of a product, and Google doesn't seem to have a problem with this. So there were a lot of people wondering about this up front. And it's all pretty unclear exactly what the reality is, where the stories came from. I think the speculation is currently kind of resting on the fact that people are saying, well, it does sound like that what's happening is that Google may have pressured Acer to say, look, you can do this, sure, but we're not necessarily going to look favorably upon it. And if we don't look favorably upon it, who knows what might happen? Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, and favorably is the operative word. So in this particular story that's posted in the link, how does a company become a favored device maker?
Well, and that's the question. I mean, it's actually, it basically means that your CEO and the other CEO go have lunch. I don't know. I'm purely speculating there, but it basically boils down to, because increasingly nobody is getting early access to the code anymore. I think this is one of the things that is really starting with Jelly Bean is going to be continuing out, is that as the Android source is released, it's now being released in packages so that Google doesn't have to hand it out to its preferred clients first. On the other hand, maybe there are some agreements between various companies about when they get it and what they're allowed to name, how they're allowed to reference Android in a preferred way, and whether they're going to be allowed preferred access to the Play Store or whatever. I don't know. But I don't think this is... I think the angle and perspective kind of blew this out of proportion.
Yeah.
Now, Google does not license Android, but they do license the Play Store on Android. And if you don't have the Play Store, you basically, unless you're Amazon, don't have a, I guess the best way to describe it would be kosher device.
Well, it means that you don't get Google's apps. And that may be what it was saying, is that you're not going to get Google's apps, but it's in Google's best interest to have people have their apps.
Right, but you don't see any major phone that doesn't have the Play Store on it, is probably my point.
But you do see a lot of tablets that... Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah. Kevin says Asus makes decent hardware, but nothing world class as far as I've seen. If they make Nexus hardware, I'd be kind of meh about it.
Well, they did make Nexus hardware.
I would completely and utterly, completely disagree with that statement.
I think he meant to say Acer.
I think he meant to say Acer.
Yes, right.
I would completely and utterly agree with that statement if he means Acer.
Oh.
But to answer it, it's in Google's interest to have the Play Store and the other Google software out there. But you are seeing lots of suppliers coming out with Android tablets that don't have Google's stuff on it. The big news this week was that Toys R Us is now releasing a tablet specifically targeted at kids. And that's not a Play Store tablet. Pandigital, who I've been talking about for a year now, none of their stuff is a Play Store tablet. And no, it's not a really good tablet, but it's also one that I'd be willing to let a 4-year-old drop on the floor without too much concern.
Pantech is a very interesting company, in my opinion. Very low-end devices, but also very low prices, which
yes,
there's at some point.
Okay,
so, moving on.
I would just add this. No one is going to be able to, Alan, my thoughts on the Acer thing. It was originally cast similar to Microsoft when they got in trouble because they were doing these licensing agreements where they said that if you wanted the cheap price for OEM Windows, you had to pay for it for every computer you produced, not just the computers, just straight up was judged as a monopoly tactic. They said every computer you make, you have to pay for Windows. And so that was shutting out other operating systems because why would they put OS2 or something on a computer?
But I think the difference here
it's different,
is...
But that was an inaccurate analogy. A better analogy is when Apple said, fine, you can get into this business if you can make a phone or whatever, but Schmidt's off our board because now you're a competitor. And so you're not going to, Acer, you're not going to be making a Nexus 10 anytime soon. I think it was that kind of thing. And that's fair. That's competition. Everyone's getting in everybody else's business because that's the way it is. And my final thought on this, and you can comment on this, but in the end, the only people who are going to, just like Google came out with an excellent phone and it didn't sell well because people want a subsidized phone. They want that $99 phone and then they pay $1,000 extra for it over the long term, but they get in at $99. They don't want to pay $500. So Apple, of course, is an exception to that. But even there, it's like $150 or like $100 now for 4S. People want the subsidized phone generally, and the tablets are going to be the same thing. In the end, the tablet will be dominated by the iPad by Apple and by Amazon. It's their number one best-selling item, the Kindle, and the Kindle's much better now. But the original Kindle, which is ghetto by today's standards, only a year later, was their best-selling item. And potentially by Google as the Play Store gets more traction. But the people who are just selling a tablet on its own, unless it is just a whiz-bang tablet, they're not going to get the market share, because the people are Google and Apple and Amazon are selling these things at or below cost, because they have this whole ecosystem and this store. And if you don't have the apps and you don't have the recognition that your store is awesome, then you're not going to be able to put tablets out at a competitive price, and there's no point in doing it. HP was the classic example of that, where they were dumping these things weeks after they put them out. And the BlackBerry Playbook, where do you begin? Those are my thoughts. Anything else before we go to...
Yeah, maybe I should address Jason's comment here. He has the question, can someone explain how Kevin was granted webcam display access? And so, Jason, as you can see, you have now been granted webcam display access. It's just a simple thing that our good friend Alan and helping has... is it Gerwin that's developed this comment tracker app?
It is. I believe it's pronounced Gervin, although I'm probably slightly mispronouncing it. Yes.
Yeah. So nobody has webcam display access except those of us in the Hangout, but we can put up anybody's comment just like we did yours, Jason.
But
so
if you go to Alan's...
They're not playing favorites, just so you know.
Yeah, so I hope you feel special now.
See, Kevin has gone to Bruce and Alan's PayPal page, and he's got the secret codes. Okay, so I guess let's do the Mohamed story. Did you read it?
I skimmed it and I saw his earlier post on it.
Yeah, I didn't look at the comments. He got zapped, I guess. Mohamed's a good guy, Mohamed Mansour, who's now with Microsoft, was with BlackBerry, with RIM, Research in Motion. And he's been on the show several times, and really, really smart young developer. And he created this extended share for Google+. It's been removed without notice, but then it shows here a notice, letter, an email. It's been, it says it's been up for 1 year and 3 months. It was the most popular external not made by Google employees for Google Plus with over 120,000 users. Google Plus's first Chrome extension. It worked. Many other contributors. He's upset. Why are they treating developers this way? I already got too much drama with Chrome extensions in the past. That was when they changed the whole layout, and a lot of his stuff was scraping the page because they didn't have the APIs. They still don't have the APIs they need. And Vic Gandotra, when he was on the show, he said, they're being real cautious about that because they don't want to do something wrong and have folks like Alan and Mohamed mad at them because they changed something. So they're going cautiously on that. So that's why you don't see things like TweetDeck. You don't see Google Plus Deck. You don't see a plume for Google Plus because you can't auto post. Although DoShare has kind of worked around it, and that's a great app. But he's upset, and he said the email says, we wanted to let you know that your extended share for Google Plus has been removed from the Chrome web store because it uses Google marks and or icons in a way that doesn't comply with our branding policies. If you'd like to resubmit your item, please make sure the appropriate changes to the item so that it complies with our policies, then republish it to your developer dashboard. And then repeated or egregious violations in the store may result in your developer account being banned from the store. This may also result in the suspension of related Google services associated with the Google account. And that is from Chaitu. I'm not sure.
I don't remember the app the extension having icons.
Apparently it did. Apparently it did.
In the store?
Well, given that the name of it includes the words Google Plus.
Well, so is that the issue because the name's on it? Because it doesn't
might
have
be.
it. I know you don't use extensions, and
It might be, but this is something that a lot of people have been warning about for a while now. And that's that, a lot of people have been playing very fast and loose with how they use Google's trademarks, including this show, I would point out.
I have a specific story related to this. This reminds me of what Twitter did when Uber Twitter or whatever had to change to Uber Social, and all the apps that were using Tweet or Twitter in their name, Twitter made them all change and not use their trademark name. I use this is a news show, so they can't stop me. This is, I mean, this is a just like Leo has This Week in Google. This is Google Plus Week, so we're different. But it's a great show, but they can't stop. This is a clear First Amendment use. I'm saying that this is a weekly news show about Google Plus, right? So they can't stop me from using that. However, they could stop me from advertising with AdWords using the name Google.
But here's the thing,
and
Dan.
they initially did, and then I'll shut up. They initially pinged me because I had one of the call. The guy emailed me and said, we want to help you and stuff. And I had some AdWords. I was doing a demo thing, and I had Google Plus Week, watch number one show Google Plus, blah blah blah, and they rejected them for. And then there's an appellate process, which I was not even aware of, but apparently a Google staffer who's trying to get you to spend more money. He applied or whatever, and about a month later, they got approved again. So now I have, I'm one of the only or few people who can use their trademark name in advertising. So, but again, that's a closed appeal process, right? I guess. What are your thoughts, Alan?
I mean, I think part of it, though, is we're treading on some difficult water here. I don't remember exactly what terms we agreed to when we went and used and signed up for Google Plus. And it would not surprise me if one of the things we agreed to is that we would not use Google Plus's marks to represent anything that we were doing. So that falls outside fair use. That's contract law now. So it's shaky grounds. I don't know. It's weird and it's difficult, and it's times like this when I wish I was a high-paid lawyer.
It's interesting because I don't think he's monetizing these. Is there even any advertising on it?
I don't know, and as you well know, that's irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant. Fair use.
But it falls outside fair use.
Yeah,
it's contract
different.
law.
Yeah, it's different. I wish we had Mike on. Okay, so that's an interesting debate, and I'm sure it will be debated. It's got 15 shares so far. Probably will not make the What's Hot list. Just a wild guess. Okay, so
You never know. This is Mohammed.
Yeah,
True.
you never know.
It might make it for a while. Okay, Google faces autocomplete lawsuit from former German First Lady. Apparently, if you type her name in, there's this in Chrome or Google, they got the autocomplete feature. And if you type her name in, it says like call girl after it or prostitute, because there were rumors, tabloid stuff in Germany, that at some point she had a long-standing profession. So this whole thing. I remember what was the other one about Rick Santorum, when he angered some gay rights activists, and they did a campaign to create a verb or a noun. You'll have to Google it yourself when your kids aren't around. If you're watching, if you don't know what I'm talking about, but 99% of the viewers of a program like this would know. But they created a word that was sort of a pretty gross substance to use for his name.
It was obscene. Let's be straight out. It was obscene.
It was the most obscene thing you could think of. And they associated. They said, well, let's make this a noun to describe this thing, and so it became the number one or number two search item on Google, and they called it the Santorum problem. It became a whole meme. So,
and actually, this goes back much longer than that. Google bombing goes back years and years at this point, when people would deliberately create pages and create links to these pages in order to raise the level on Google for whatever. And I believe it was actually first applied to George Bush, and I don't remember the details of it anymore. But the term is called Google bombing. If this was any place besides Germany, I would say that she doesn't stand a chance. But since this is Germany, I could well easily predict that that what Germany will do is ban Google from the face of the earth.
Well, they've lost some of these issues before. Google bombing, for folks who don't know, the way you actually technically do it is, if you have a movement of activists, you get them to put a link to your site that's the definition, or repeat the definition all over the web. And the way Google ranks you on the search results is how many sites link to you. And if the most people link to you, and other things, other algorithmic things, then I think Bruce is showing it to us here. Let's look.
Yeah, this this is the way some of the search results come up. So
can you imagine if that was your name?
Got some funny autocomplete stories, right?
This is okay. Let's switch here. Bruce Turner height. Bruce Turner tattoo. Bruce Turner escort. Bruce Turner prostitute. Bruce Turner prostitute. I don't know what the others. They're German words, but I could see her being upset. But really, isn't this the Barbara Streisand effect? Where Barbara Streisand famously complained about something and it just drew mass more attention to it. But I guess it's an issue in Germany, but now it's a world story in the tech community.
I mean, you can guess what some of these German words are, I mean, based on what they look like.
Yeah, now we know some bad. Now even Bruce has put German cuss words on the program. See, Bruce has a wild side. Okay, so we'll see how this goes. Google Fiber gets ABC and Disney channels, and I think this is really exciting. Anthony,
this is okay.
Anthony, what do you think? I think you think, Anthony, is this just an experiment? And like they keep saying, oh, it's just an experiment, but I think in the back they're secretly trying to conquer the world. I think they're what if we had cable everywhere and we controlled the it's called the last mile. Right, that's where they really soak you, and if they can actually run fiber to people's homes and make it profitable and get the content, then they'll be in a hugely powerful position, and they'll screw Apple TV.
Well, I mean, obviously they want this to be, if they can make money, they want to make money on it. I mean, Google is a for-profit company. They're not going to just go, oh, let's throw money here and throw money there, and I mean, they wouldn't be doing Google Glasses. They wouldn't be doing autonomous cars. They wouldn't be doing Google Fiber if they didn't think that there was money somewhere down the road in all of this. As far as getting ABC and Disney channels, I think if Craig Shipp was here, he'd be, jumping up and down on his chair. But
he's ready to move to Kansas City.
I don't see what the big deal is. It's just a major, network. So,
the big deal.
It's a major network. That's the big deal. But other than that,
the major network, the big deal is twofold. The first part is this was the major network that wasn't announced at rollout. So, and a lot of people were worried that they weren't going to have it. The second big deal is, once again, we have to remember who the not just the majority stakeholder in Disney is, but the overwhelming majority stakeholder in Disney is.
Yep.
That's the Jobs estate, isn't it?
It is the estate of Steve Jobs.
Boy,
exactly.
It's all a big incestuous thing.
I mean, we have to remember Steve Jobs. I mean, the other thing that Steve Jobs was known for besides Apple is he owned Pixar, and that's and when Disney bought Pixar, Steve Jobs got the huge got a huge benefit in the stock swap on that.
Well, Dan, if I can also add something.
Please, Jason Salas in Guam from KUM TV, who's I'm surprisingly going to weigh in on this topic.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about the Google Fiber thing, like Alan said, Alan hit on it absolutely perfectly, and that was kind of the deal breaker, because the Disney properties and the ABC properties also include the ESPN properties. So although sports isn't everybody's cup of tea, that was a major motivational factor for a lot of people if they were going to either break their existing cable agreements or contracts, what have you, or just actually try it out. And they're like, well, it hasn't got ESPN, so I won't be able to get my sports programming on there. Now it will include the ESPN family of networks, which is going to get a lot of people to sign up because, again, Kansas City, being split between the two states of Kansas and Missouri, are huge sports communities. And also, they announced this in the various press releases, and I even got the senior VP, Larry Yang, who's a really, really nice guy, and he's working really hard in the Google Fiber project over there at Google Fiber. He actually confirmed, because I said, will subscribers be able to avail of the Watch ESPN service, which actually lets you get live ESPN programming on your mobile device, and they do have support for that on Android. And he said, yeah, it's not available yet, but it will be in the near future. And it also includes Watch Disney, which is the same thing for Disney and Disney XD, I believe it's called. So that's a huge move right there, but that is a lot of content. And like Alan said, I mean, there is a degree of separation, because you can say, you know, as ABC goes, then Disney goes, and ESPN goes, and, you know, it leads into the Pixar properties, and it leads into the Apple stuff. So
Kansas City's no joke. They're the number 31 media market. This is not a rinky-dink town.
Well, which is kind of funny, because, you know, you guys, I remember last week's episode, you guys were kind of like playfully bagging on Kansas City, and it's like, oh, why were they tapped? And, you know, like, it's kind of a, you know, a Midwest town nowhere. I mean, that was really strategically done when you consider the fact that, again, it is split between those two states, and there are a lot, I mean, they're college towns, and they have, you know, their thriving sports communities, and I mean, it's, you know, fairly affluent to the best of my knowledge, so they certainly can afford that kind of infrastructure. That was a really huge move, getting the ABC stuff.
What are you joining us on?
I'm on my Nexus 7. So there's our first Nexus reference.
You finally got a Nexus 7.
No, I've had it for about maybe a couple months now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, did you? I showed off my case. You should watch the beginning if you missed it earlier. I got the Blu-Rex case. It's awesome. It's a great little case.
Very nice.
But yeah, your connectivity is fantastic.
Skipping back to the fiber issue, I think the big story here wasn't just that they got ABC Disney. It's that they have finally completed pre-signups. They've announced the order that they're going to be building out the fiber hoods. They've announced that every single school and major facility in Kansas City, in the Kansas City coverage area, will be getting fiber. And that was a concern that people had for a while. And I believe the final tally is that something like 79% of Kansas City will be getting Google Fiber in the initial rollout phase. And that's tremendous. I mean, especially considering that, where did I read somewhere? Something like 25% of those signups occurred in the past week. And of Kansas City, most of those people, almost all of that 25%, are people who have never had internet access before. Not high-speed internet access, but any internet access. They have never had dial-up. They've never had cable modem. They've never seen a need for it. They didn't know what the internet was. And Google went out to these neighborhoods. They went into, you know, the local community groups, and most of these are the lower income areas in Kansas City, and reached out to them and said, look, here is what the internet is, and here is what it can do for you.
It's going to be really interesting to see what it does to the local cable companies there. It's going to devastate them, Anthony.
I think it's worth noting that while Google is very close to the finish line, they're not at the finish line. I would say that they have like a lap left in the marathon. Because just because you sign up for this, I think you had to put down $10 and
right, that was the pre-registration. The first fiber hood that's going to be connected will be connected within a few weeks, and the people there now have, I believe it's either 2 or 4 weeks to actually sign up.
Right, so no one's committed yet, right? I mean, they have $10 in it, and if they decide to, you know, change their mind, they get their $10 back. So, I mean,
I'm not sure they get their $10 back actually.
I'm pretty sure they do, but
I believe.
Maybe,
okay.
I mean, it's $10. So.
We got to move, but let me go to Jason real quick, because I know that TV stations, the folks I talk to, their websites are better than ever. A lot of them have iPad apps. My Vizio TV has a lot of apps from different TV stations, where you can watch, you know, whatever stories they put out right on, and built into my Vizio TV. If your TV station were there, I can't imagine the kind of amazing stuff. If you had in your broadcast area, you know, potentially 50, 100,000 people in a few years with gigabit internet, the stuff you could come up with. I can't imagine.
Let me touch on something. Yeah, let me touch on something that you started saying just a few moments ago, because you were saying, what is this going to do to other cable systems? Even obviously, we know way out here in the middle of the Western Pacific that, we're not exactly on Google's heat map as far as being able to get Google Fiber anytime soon. But at the same time, the ripple effect from that deal and from that announcement is definitely felt in the cable system community out here. One of our two major cable providers, we just announced, my company broke the story that it's been announced that they're getting bought out by Japan's NTT Docomo, which already owns one of the other telecom companies out here. So there's really big stuff coming out from that. But for the people already in the know on the consumer level, they're already saying, it's like, okay, how are you going to step up your game with this whole Google Fiber thing? They're offering symmetric gigabit internet access. What are you guys going to give us? So that's, it would be unfair to say that that's the standard that's been set, because obviously that's, not every company is going to be able to pull that off, saving maybe 2 or 3 companies in the world. But then again, customers are aspiring for that level of service. I mean, think about what, like you just said, what are you going to be able to do, and what kind of applications will you be able to run if you have a gigabit up and down? You'll be able to put, shows of, your length in full 1080p HD. You'll be able to put those on the net in, 20 minutes.
But here's the thing, and here's what I don't like about about the Google Fiber experiment, and is that so far it seems like the TV is TV. It's not something new. It's not something radical. It's not Google saying, "Hey, we can dramatically change what TV is." They're essentially keeping the old channel and time slot model.
What's wrong with that, though?
Well, because Google was saying, hey, we think we can do better. And here's a place where they said, well, maybe we can't do better.
They can't beat
and
ESPN.
I think they can.
They can't beat ESPN. They can't beat the Disney Channel. They shouldn't try.
No, Dan,
Well,
I didn't say that they could. I was the one who was saying, in fact, that it was going to fail if they didn't bring ABC on board.
Well, here's my thought, right? Because exactly what Alan's saying, okay, they're bringing cable TV programming to the masses with their own infrastructure and with their own network that they're building out. Okay, that's pretty cool. What I think they're probably going to do is, everybody's thinking, okay, well, how are they going to use, the AdWords model, and how are they going to stream ads either by, the banner ads that we've been used to getting over the World Wide Web for so long, for those of us who even say the World Wide Web anymore, or on YouTube, where you have that little, the semi-transparent ads that just hang there and you can always close them. Think about the potentials that Google's going to be able to pull off now that they actually have a cable system with maybe, 200 channels, and they can actually send ads on top of your TV programming, perhaps to the level
but
that
Jason,
they can do. Go ahead.
No, and I'm sorry I cut you off, because I think we lost you got choppiness there. My problem with that is that we've heard that line before. I mean, when all of the cable companies started rolling out digital cable, they were saying, hey, this is great. We're now going to have QVC, and QVC is going to have these little icons show up, and all you need to do is, on your remote, you'll press the B button, and it'll buy it for you. And, this is why, and I sorry I have to mention your company, this is why NBC started Shop NBC, is, they saw a competitor to Google, they saw a competitor to QVC, and wanted to get in on the digital groundbreaking for it. So I don't know. I don't see. Maybe Google will figure out the magic this time. I don't think they're going to. I'm just saying they have this. They have the potential, and they've got this incredible landscape now. I mean, true. I have no idea what they're going to do. It's going to be fun seeing whether they can pull it off or not. But just think about how this extends their effective reach, not only just over the web and over mobile devices using, Yes.
So now they've got the web, and now they've got native applications, and now they've got an entire cable system worth of channels to show anytime.
Here's the funny thing on that, though, Jason. Google had a TV advertising unit, and they recently shut it down. And recently, I believe even within the past couple of months, they shut it down because they just didn't know what they were doing with it, basically.
Okay, let's go to Bruce, and then I got a final thought with Jason.
Kevin's got a comment. He says, when people think of cable companies, they think of the TV stations first and the internet offerings later. With Google TV, people think of the internet speed first.
But it's one, I mean, yeah, but what Jason was alluding to is I can't imagine. Jason, can you imagine the complaints that people, if you're trying to sell, how could you possibly sell conventional cable in that town? You know, $70 for 20 down and 3 up or whatever. There's no way.
You are going to have to bundle the shenanigans out of every other thing you can partner with. You're going to say, you know, we'll give you incredibly competitive cable TV, plus we'll come to your house and we'll wash your car and we'll deliver your bill.
There'll be a domino effect because
There's-
the next city or county over, just across the line, my neighbor 3 blocks up gets, you know, they're going to have to do something incredible to come close to matching Google.
No, there isn't, and here's why. Because what they're going to, what they're going to be able to say is, well, for starters, they're going to say, look, we've got phone service. You don't get phone service with Google, so we'll be able to give you phone service and a discount on everything else.
What do you mean you don't get phone service?
There's no phone service included with the Google plan.
You can, you can call from Gmail, with Google Voice, whatever.
No, Dan, you didn't hear me. The cable company is going to say, we can give you voice, video, and cable.
Oh God, those people!
And
those
Google
poor
can't
people
give
who
that
get
to you.
the cable phone service and spend money on that one. There's so many options that are.
But Dan, this is a community where 25% of the people haven't used internet. Did you hear what I said 5 minutes ago?
Yes.
Yes. You're going to get the elite group who realizes they don't need to pay somebody else for phone.
So you're saying that poor people are stupid and don't have a clue that they can use voice over internet protocol?
No, what I'm saying is there are people out there who don't know what the internet can be used for.
So
it's nothing to do with stupid or not.
But you're seeing stuff like a Magic Jack in Walmart right next to the phones now. I mean, people are, getting on to this. And
I think it's a very small community of people who are getting onto this still.
But if you look at the marketing messaging that's being put forth with Magic Jack and with Vonage, especially, Dan, it's a very well-defined demographic. Just take a look at the ads and look at who they're targeting and look at the semiotics that come out in those ads and everything, and you can pretty much see who they're looking at for Magic Jack and Vonage.
But imagine if everyone had gigabit internet.
It's
up
more
and down,
than just
the kind of products like Magic Jack you could
but
have.
Here's the thing. It's more than just having that internet. It's being able to get the word out that you don't need the phone service, and that's where Google. This is. I just said that Google needs to get the word out, and we can see just how lousy they are at this.
Okay. All right. Let's. Google and Boingo extend agreement to offer sponsored Wi-Fi. This isn't a big deal. It's 4,000 spots, and it's basically they're going to be able to advertise Google products over that Wi-Fi. So it's going to be in hotels and
it's just through the end of the month, right?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean,
yeah, but listen, I mean, this is incredibly clever marketing. Basically, it's. Did we discuss this last week? I feel like we discussed this last week.
They extended it, or I don't
They've
know.
extended. Okay.
I'm flying into Atlanta. I'll when I go to Lynchburg, I go through TSA. I got free Wi-Fi. I make my connecting flight in Charlotte. I've got free Wi-Fi. I go to Atlanta, and I got to pay. Come on, Atlanta, get some free Wi-Fi. I hope Atlanta is one of the cities that's going to have this in their airport, at least to the end of September.
Atlanta needs to get on the stick, right, Margie?
Yeah, come on, Atlanta. Come on.
It's kind of curious because Atlanta is a bit, is a tech city. You
I
think
close
that,
on Atlanta. I wish she's here.
I wish light bulbs were free. Then we could see Anthony.
That's not gonna happen.
Okay, so a couple other things here. Not really just cool stuff. Kind of 3 topics in one here. And if you're interested in these, I have the sites you can go to actually find out more about it under the video or under the post. YouTube and Khan Academy are getting together to. It's a contest. They'll to come up with. Khan Academy is it started out that one guy doing things like how to do algebra, and it was just he's just a wonderful teacher, and it got real popular. Bill Gates gave him a bunch of money to keep going and expand, I guess basically to pay him to keep doing it. And so YouTube and Khan Academy, it's spelled Khan, are looking for the next stars like that can do that, and they've got $1,000 prize or prizes. in addition to being promoted and things like that, which is worth far more than that. It's a $1,000 gift certificate to B&H, the big New York technology store that sells microphones and cameras and stuff you'd need. And then Google's also offering a free power search class starting in about a week or so. It's free. It's 5 or 6 classes, I think 50 minutes each or something. You can sign up for that online. And then this is the most interesting to me as we move toward online education alternatives. And a lot of universities are setting up online classes that are free for anyone, which I think is fantastic. It's the best thing since the public library system was invented. And Google is offering a free open source course builder with courses, the formatting and a wiki and things like that. And it's an experiment, but they'd like people to use the free tools that they're coming up with as they develop their own online courses. It could be anything, and it's free. So any thoughts on any of those things? Let me start with Bruce.
On the course builder thing. The reason I wasn't here last week is because I was in Philadelphia for our college reunion, and unfortunately, the college that I graduated from no longer exists as a functioning school. But there's a committee that's been put together on relaunching the college, and we were talking about the internet and about online learning. And of course, as you know, Liberty University here in Lynchburg has a huge online learning thing, as does the University of Phoenix and stuff like that. When I saw this post, and this is one of the things I like about Google Plus, I learned about Course Builder because somebody posted it in Google Plus, and I've begun to share this with some of the Alumni Association board. I think this is a tremendous thing, open source, and one of the things that you'll note on the link is that they're having 2 Hangouts on air. One of them is going to be next Wednesday night at 10 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and then on the 26th of September, same time, 10 a.m. to 10:45, and where they're going to be discussing it. And some of the people who have actually built courses using Course Builder are going to be there to share their experience and everything. I think this is really huge. I congratulate Google on putting it out there, sharing it.
What do you think about the concept, Margie, of my thought is this. I think in the end, as we watch teachers on strike and in Chicago and all this stuff, I got to say, and this is controversial, but you could take, I've said this before, you could take a teacher from like 1880 and stick them in a modern math class in a time machine, and he could basically conduct himself fairly well, right? We reinvent the wheel in every class. Now, there's no replacing the value of a great teacher. But as a former high school teacher myself, I can tell you that not all teachers are great teachers. And I just think that if there's a guy in Albuquerque who gives the best talk about the Gettysburg Address, if there's a woman in San Antonio who can talk about the Battle of the Bulge better than anybody in the world, why can't every kid benefit from that? And if someone like Khan can do and the way that some kids fall behind in class and some kids are bored because it's not moving fast enough. Well, with online learning, as software advances, every kid is perfectly paced and nobody's getting bored. And you could have, like, for some of these classes, you could have, like, basically a proctor or someone to assist, I just think it's incredible in advance. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, there's a lot. Yeah, I liked the fact that Google's allowing people to have online courses. What I was going to say a few seconds ago, how are they promoting it out to the colleges and to the schools? Because a lot of teachers, they still don't even know about Hangouts. And I was having a discussion with my sister who's she's taking some community college classes right now, and she was like, I need help with my math and this. I'm like, well, tell your professor to get on Google Plus and get on a Hangout, and she can use it. She's like, what do you mean you can use it? I'm like, well, there's a whiteboard in there, and she can teach you and show you things. She's like, oh, I wonder if my professor knows about this. So how are they promoting this out?
I think they're initially promoting it because everyone's going to be looking to MIT and the other colleges that are already doing online classes, and they're gonna work with those guys and say, hey, listen, we're gonna try to let our engineering team create a framework to make this easier for you. Not that, I mean, MIT obviously has some
but
game.
Stanford and MIT have already created their own frameworks.
Wonder if they could
Yeah,
work
we
with
have-
them.
we have one.
It's all
Well-
they're giving it away.
Everyone's giving it away.
I'm guessing that they're going to work together, or I'm
presumably
speculating.
the guy who created the Stanford one comes from Google, so this is not, so there is some relationship here, but
I mean, frankly, they have an interest because it's hard to find good engineers now, and with the law, they're trying to get them from overseas because there's not enough here, and
I in looking at this, I'm following a lot of teachers on Google Plus actually, and several who are both involved in and analyzing these massive online courses, MOOCs they're called, and I don't know. There's some mixed reviews. I think there's a lot of work that really needs to go into these before they're ready for prime time.
I think that at a minimum,
I think that the idea of saying, hey, if you've got a great teacher, you can now record that great teacher and everybody can learn from them. But what I kind of wonder is how much of that teacher, how much of what that teacher is great because they say the same thing every time, or because they know how to tailor their class, what they're teaching around the students who are learning at that moment.
I think it's
And
a
it's that-
mixture,
that
and I think
interaction that
experiment will lead, and everyone's different. But we all had in college or high school, you always had, think back, your favorite teacher, as far as someone who was interesting.
But
and
here's the
what
thing,
if
Dan,
you took that teacher and you stuck them with a professional camera crew and a producer, and they
And they would
created an
suck.
epic
No,
thing?
they wouldn't. I had some. Oh my God, they would
Some
not.
would,
suck.
some wouldn't, some would
someone,
translate.
but I think of
Teachers
all,
that suck.
but I think of the best teachers that I had in high school and in college, and these teachers weren't the ones who were standing up there making great presentations. These were the ones who were walking up and down the aisles, who would say something and then turn to you and say, "What do you think?
But
What
not
is your
everyone
opinion on
learns
this?"
that way, Alan.
What was that, Margie?
Some people don't participate. They don't like to learn that way.
Well, I think
I realize that.
I think that's what he's saying is the great teachers are making their students participate.
It's not even so much making their students participate, but they are bringing out their students so that they can participate.
Well, it
But
also
that's what I'm
it
saying.
depends on the
That's not
course.
for everyone. Yes, it is. Dana's right about that.
I mean,
Of course.
look, math, algebra, I think at a minimum for supplementary after school stuff, it'd be fantastic to have tutorials to look at. That's how Khan started. But pottery making, you kind of got to be hands-on. Foreign
think even
language,
for-
someone's got to listen to you speak to see if you're speaking it correctly.
But here's the thing. I think even for math or for history, you've got to have somebody who is working with you. Because otherwise, if it's math, it's a lecturer standing up there and it's boring as hell.
Why do you need to have someone working with you for history?
I think history is, especially now that all they're doing is going to the standardized tests.
Well, we can
That's how
discuss
they're
whether
teaching.
that's how much of a
for a
mistake
different-
that is as well.
That's for
But that's another debate.
Education Week, which is on Wednesdays. Okay, so all right, so we're all
Jason,
against all these innovations in
Bruce, get that comment
education
from-
because we need more union jobs, right, Bruce?
Which one did you want there?
That's the one I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Diana Ridley. She says, well, I had a teacher who was fast-paced. He made hilarious jokes at the same time, made the class participate, and we could debate with him. Here's where I think the big key with online learning, and I think you still can have this this open source platform, but the more interactivity that you can have, like for instance, maybe restrict the class size to 15 and use Zoom.us, or restrict it to 10 and use Google Hangouts and incorporate some of that, and where you can have where you can see your students and you can tell who's tuned in and who's not tuned in, so that you can do the very things that
Right,
Alan
but-
was talking about.
But here's the thing, Bruce. What a lot of these courses are trying to do, and in fact the way they can almost get away with doing it, is they've got the professor recording it, and they're going to be able to replay this recording year after year after year.
Right.
And they're kind of hoping, and what some of these structures are trying to do is create forums so that the students can discuss things with each other, evaluate each other's work. This is all very peer-based, not hierarchy-based, and that's difficult for a lot of people But that's also a really great thing in some ways, because this now means instead of a teacher encouraging you and working with you, it now means that you're working with your peers to do the same sort of thing.
I think the peers will do that.
Well, that's the question.
You get that many people
I think it's more likely to happen in an online scenario than it is to happen in a physical classroom.
Right.
No, I don't think so. When you're in a physical classroom, you're in college. There's so much that I learned in college from outside the classroom. Maybe we're bringing up a topic, in the cafeteria, on the quad, or, in the library, and we're dealing with each other. And we can go so much farther in person talking about something, and then we can do it in the classroom. Now, I like that you can have participation in the classroom. It makes it more fun and stuff, engaging for students. But I'm saying some people are like me, and you're an introvert and you're very shy. You don't want to sit there and throw out your ideas to, a group of 20-something people.
You're shy?
But Margie, we're not talking 20-something people. We're talking 20,000 people.
But imagine... Margie's shy? I'm not getting past that.
Yes, Dan, I'm shy.
Dan, you'd be shocked to discover that I'm shy as well.
You might not want to be seen with me on the quad, but you might be okay with being seen with me in a Google Hangout.
I was thinking as they do this, imagine as they pursue this, we got to move because we have just a very important topic next. But it would just be, imagine, Bruce, if for this online learning, if Google could come up with some kind of multi-user video conferencing system where a teacher and 9 students anywhere in the world could be in the conference and they could screen share and share notes, and it could even be recorded and others could watch.
And collaborate on the curriculum.
Imagine. They could call it a hangout.
You guys need to see what some of these massive online courses are.
Oh, yes, some of them are amazing.
Because they are not a teacher and 9 students in a hangout. They are a teacher recording a lecture and 1,000 students watching it.
It's a lot cheaper.
That's the point.
Yep. So they can pay Chicago teachers more. They average about $70,000. I'm guessing plus benefits, which probably living in Chicago is not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they punted the teacher evaluation part of this thing in their agreement.
There's so much more. The teachers in my state, they're around $25,000 to $30,000 a year.
Yeah, I think, Bruce, you were out there showing your support with them, right? With the Chicago teachers out on the street with your signs and placards?
No, I wasn't.
Or were you at the anniversary of the... that's right, you couldn't make it because you were at the anniversary of the Occupy Wall Street thing.
No, I was showing some Florida friends the D-Day Memorial in Bedford yesterday.
All right, he was at the National Right to Work Association passing out leaflets. Okay, my buddy Bruce. All right, Alan, I'm going to let you handle this next topic. I think this is just crazy.
Come on.
This is funny. I don't know. It's not an Easter egg, but go ahead.
This got added at the last minute because we had at least 4 people in our comments have been asking us to talk about it. So I wanted to bring it up. Basically, Google released a new feature to Google Search this week, and that is you can ask for the bacon number of anybody. So yes, if you type in bacon number Barack Obama, you'll learn that his bacon number is 2. And you can do this for a lot of people. And this seems silly, but believe it or not, there's actually some very interesting technology going on underneath this. There have been sites in the past that let you enter in an actor or actress, and it'll tell you their bacon number. And it uses the IMDb database, the Internet Movie Database, which has a list of actors, shows they've been on, and so forth. So let me backstep one. If you don't know what a bacon number is, this is basically if you take any given actor and list all of the movies that they're in and all of the actors who are also in those movies with them, you've got a degree of separation of 1. So the trick is, can you find the shortest chain to get from that actor to Kevin Bacon? And apparently for a huge number of actors these days, that number is 2, at least according to Google. I entered it in with several people who I know are on IMDb. They've done movies and TV shows. They came up with no bacon number. which I thought was interesting. So I did a little digging around, and apparently other people have found odd results like this as well. It turns out that Google is not using IMDb to compute the Bacon number. What they are using is their knowledge graph. So this is basically a demonstration of the information that their knowledge graph is picking up and accumulating and storing and learning about people. So this is the first indication that we're seeing that the knowledge graph is trying to get an understanding of social relationships. And if you're suddenly got this light bulb going on over your head, you should have, because that's basically Google saying they're trying to learn more about how people are related to other people. And that is a huge thing. Unfortunately for Google, so far the Bacon number is really turning into a disaster. So for example, right now it's giving a Bacon number of 2 for Barack Obama, but it is not giving a Bacon number at all for the other presidential candidate, Mitt Romney. And you got to wonder, you know that Mitt Romney and Barack Obama have met each other, so Mitt Romney's Bacon number should at least be 3, right? But it's not there. So it seems like there are some faults still in how the knowledge graph is collecting information and connecting them to other people. And like I said, I went and found some actors who did not show up anywhere on Google's Bacon number graph. So it says something. We have a comment from Diana saying she found somebody who's got a Bacon number of 3. I've actually seen somebody who said they found, thank you. I've actually seen somebody who claimed they found someone with a Bacon number of 6, which I found pretty incredulous.
Well, I had turkey bacon with my scrambled eggs this evening for supper, and
now I'm hungry, Bruce. Thank you. Anthony, what are your thoughts on the incredible Bacon number?
I don't care. That's my thoughts. I don't care.
There you go.
So maybe you can do this online. What's Romney's Bacon number, Alan? If you could tell us.
Well, Romney's Bacon, I mean, given the fact that Barack Obama's Bacon number is 2, Romney's Bacon number would have to be at most 3, because there's at least 1 degree of separation, 1 additional leap that you have to take there. For
Correct.
all I know, his number could also be 2, depending on how this thing is computed. I really don't know.
I think the problem is that they're just using movies and not like actual. Well, I guess movies is an actual connection, but they're not using. Other like if they're at a conference together that
it would seem
established, they wouldn't make the connection.
Well, it would seem they'd have to be, because I mean, how many movies has Barack Obama been in?
Well, apparently 1, supposedly.
Well, and here's the question: is just what relationships are being made? What connections are they using? It's a great demonstration of the fact that the knowledge graph is accumulating this information and trying to build it, but it's also a demonstration that it's not quite there yet. But moving on to other movie stories, we also had this story, and perhaps Dan will fill us in on some of the details, that Hollywood A-listers have been seen at the Googleplex filming a movie, and I've even heard rumors that there is a movie about Google being made.
Yes. It's a movie about interns, and being an intern at Google is no joke. I think it's like 80 grand or something, or it's a lot of money that they make. So it's a very sought after position. And of course, if you do well, you could get a job at Google, which is one of the top companies to work at in this field. So it's Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. They're shooting a comedy about recently laid off 40-somethings who hatch a diabolical scheme to land coveted internships at Google. And according to casting calls, the internship, I'm reading from All Things D. Again, the links are below. The internship is shooting at Stanford on Friday and in San Francisco next week. And the stars are Will Ferrell, Rose Byrne, John Goodman, who was Roseanne Barr's TV husband. So I think did I get that right?
John Goodman is Roseanne Barr's TV husband? Okay, TV husband, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
anyway, that's cool, and I think they're going to be at the Googleplex, and Google's all for it. Obviously, they got permission to do it, so it'll be good publicity and fun, right? And it'll help the brand. It'll help the brand. It'll be
How much do you think this is in reaction to the social network?
I think I don't know. I mean, it depends who called who.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
You're a conspiracy theorist.
No, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Bruce is a conspiracy theorist.
No.
But there are other interesting movies being made, Dan. Let's talk about these other interesting movies. Next topic.
Oh yeah, is Lincoln on here?
It isn't.
Yeah. Well, okay. Two other things. Lincoln, Steven Spielberg did his Hangout and premiered his movie about Abraham Lincoln, and that was cool. It looks like a great trailer, and it's exactly the kind of thing that will. It's just Oscar bait big time, because they love historical dramas like that and stuff like that. That's the kind of thing. Like a movie like Top Gun didn't get any Oscars, I don't think, because that's not typically what they reward at the Oscars. They like drama, so that's cool that he did that here. But there was a movie that was made in an unconventional way. I remember there was an interesting tweet. I will read from Donald Trump about this. He's been on the warpath against a bunch of people. Some of his tweets are just hysterical. He really goes for the jugular vein. I think it's real Donald Trump, right? But he actually addressed this today on Twitter. He said, I'm going to look for it here.
He said, obviously nothing very interesting.
No, he talked about Project X and all this stuff.
When Donald Trump knows what Google X is, then you've made it big.
Why don't you go ahead and explain it, Alan, and I will find the tweet.
So the other big news, this actually started last week, when Diane von Firstenberg, no relation unfortunately, was seen at the New York City Fashion Week wearing a pair of Google Glass. And in fact, a number of her models were also wearing Google Glass on the runway itself. This week we found out why, and we saw that there was an entire 3-minute video made entirely using Google Glass, or shot entirely using Google Glass. So we were seeing things from DVF's perspective, from the perspective of some of her models. And if you haven't seen the video, I suggest you watch it, because part of what it gives is a really good idea of just how impressive some of the video technology that's currently in the glasses. And remember, these glasses are still a prototype. Just how impressive some of the video is. I mean, I think the video is actually better than some Android phones that are currently out there. Yeah, it's 3 minutes, entirely shot with Google Glass. The first video entirely shot with Google Glass. So it's some impressive stuff.
It's cool, and Bruce is showing it. Let me bring him up here.
Yeah, the quality is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
I mean, what I found most impressive is I went to see what display resolutions were supported, and 720p was one of them. And if you look at it in 720p in a fairly big viewer, you don't see any artifacts. You don't see any of the poor video quality that we even see in Hangouts. It was just very crisp, clear video. Very impressive.
And I've got to correct myself. It was Rupert Murdoch.
Oh, that's even better.
Who tweeted, "Genius!" ! Sergey Brin showing revolutionary new glasses at DVF, can take photos, receive texts, give directions, and more. Google Project X. So that's kind of an endorsement.
Kind of. What I think was actually really neat is watching how some of the newspapers who are so far out of technology they really didn't know what they were saying, how they were reacting to the glasses. I think my favorite comment of anybody's was, and I don't remember who said it, unfortunately, was in trying to describe it, they said, it's kind of like your iPhone in glasses. And I think that really summed it up. I mean, I have to wonder just how much Sergey was cringing when he heard that, but it's a great description of it. Google Glass is going to be, with this, we're seeing that Google Glass can be fashionable. It can be hip, it can be trendy. It's going to be something that people want just because you got to have it. And at the same time, it's a piece of technology that revolutionizes certain things. It's revolutionary. It brings in all new capabilities that people didn't know they wanted or needed.
I mean, there are strap-on cameras above your head, like
yeah, sure.
But
there have been cameras that you could wear before.
That's not as cool as the way that doesn't look quite as cool as these very attractive models with these really fancy 7 of 9 gadgets. Again, Roddenberry owns all these patents.
I mean, I like Google Glass. Can I say something, Dan?
Yeah.
Like, I like Google Glasses, but I think they need to kind of work a little bit on the design to make it a little bit more fashionable, so it'll be like really cute when girls are wearing it. Because I mean, you guys are guys, and you're thinking tech, this, and specification, all these things.
Are you suggesting that Google's top priority is not fashion sense?
Accessor, right? What?
Are you suggesting that Google does not have fashion sense?
Yes, Google has no fashion sense. We already
I
know.
wonder if
One
LeVar
word answer.
Burton has a pair of these.
Here's the thing, Margie.
I want to be able to change our colors and stuff, and so to coordinate with my outfit, I wanted to be, cute with my shoes. You know what I mean? If I got some cute red heels, I like red on my glasses.
Here's the thing, Margie. I think what they're saying. I mean, I think what is being said with this is that Google Glasses can be fashionable. And it's not me saying it. It's not Sergey saying it. It's Diane von Firstenberg saying it.
Sergey, Alan, Sergey said that our buddy Sergey Brin,
our buddy who we speak to every week.
I was upset he couldn't make it to the show tonight. But he said that the neatest thing, because I know you have an absolutely adorable little boy, and he said that the thing he loves best about it is when he's playing with his kid, that he can turn it to take a picture every 10 seconds. And he doesn't miss any cute moments. That he's just randomly doing it, and then he can go through and, find 4 or 5 of the good pictures.
Well, I'll be honest. This is why someday I am hopeful to actually get a pair and try it out. But because that's one of the things that I really, really want. When you saw the Google Glass video at I/O, and when you saw some of the pictures that had leaked out before then, it was obviously an ultimate camera for a parent. But I got to tell you, one of the things that worries me a lot, and it worries, especially after seeing the DVF video, is I have this worry that people are going to see it, and when it finally comes out, people are going to think of it only as a video camera. And if you think of it only as a video camera, that's like saying that the iPhone is just a phone. There is so much more that this is going to be able to do that I think when people finally, that's hard to demonstrate. It's hard to talk about.
I think it's about the market, Alan. I think it's about like the iPod Watch. The kind of person who would be interested in that product would know that it's not just a watch.
But no. Here's the thing.
The kind of person who would buy this.
Here's the thing. It doesn't. The iPod Watch was kind of a specialty thing. The iPhone is something that everybody has. But everybody has it. They know it's more than just a cell phone. It's a smartphone. That's what Google needs to do as we get closer to bringing this as they get closer to actually bringing this to market, is to say this isn't just a video camera, it's everything. And Sergey addressed this a little bit today in his post. It was either today or yesterday. He said that what's catching the imagination right now is the video. But there's so much more to it. It's just very difficult to demonstrate. And as they get closer to launch, they're going to need to find good ways to demonstrate that. And I think they're going to.
I think they're getting better baby steps at marketing. And they've been so bad in the past that when they did do something cool like the Muppets, they were criticized for it because it was so out of character for them. It would be like Mr. Rogers trying to rap, Anyway, so Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's good for them, and it's good for the product, obviously, and I think this is a revolution. I mean, you heard it from Rupert first. Um,
You know, when the Wall Street Journal says something good about Google, you know
yeah,
they're onto something.
well, maybe they'll be nicer now.
Well, that all
Because their
depends. Do you think they've
boss-
sent Do you think they've sent Rupert his pair?
I imagine that after his tweet, he's on the short list to get a dev copy. He's tweeting now, so he's Mr. Tech. Okay, so Alan, we have two topics that only these are just made for you. I want to ask. I got a racy topic for before we get into the two dev type things. Anthony, I want to ask you something. What do you think? Because we argued about this with the story. The Beef Products Incorporated is suing ABC News over the stories about what was dubbed pink slime, and saying that that for big money, like billions or whatever. My thought is they accurately reported what the then USDA inspector said in a memo, an official memo, the term he used. I think that the stuff it's a cheap filler additive. It's approved. There's no evidence anyone has ever gotten sick from it or died or anything like that. If you had hamburger that did or didn't have it, you probably wouldn't know. My issue was that it wasn't made clear that this was in there. Their contention is, well, it's all part of the cow. Well, my contention is, well, so's an ear, a nostril, hoof. And what do you think? You think this lawsuit has any merit?
I have no idea. I mean, basically, this entire the entire news cycle basically bankrupt this company, as best as I understand it. I don't know. Probably not. They probably don't have a case.
It's tough to prove malice. Bruce, one of the things is, why are they picking on ABC News? Because this was reported by other news sources much earlier. In fact, that's why McDonald's stopped using it. Jamie Oliver was on his campaign against it. ABC News it finally hit traction in the public's mind. The way they reported it, they said it's not on the label. And when they said that it's in 70 or 80% of the food and grocery stores, and you don't even know it's not required to be on the label, that brings up the whole issue of how the government agencies collude. That's a strong word. Coordinate with these companies to it's the dual role. It's like the FAA after a plane crash. The dual role of enforcing regulation and at the same time promoting the industry. Every time there's a big plane crash, everyone criticizes the FAA because they have the dual role of promoting the airline industry and also regulating. Is that a conflict? What are your thoughts on this lawsuit?
Well, I think, in any lawsuit, you go after the company or the person who's got the deepest pockets. Remember back in 1977, my wife was struck by a car right in front of the Rush Memorial Hospital in Meridian, Mississippi. And we didn't have much in the way of insurance at that particular time. I think we just had a major medical policy, and the gentleman was obviously at fault. But so our attorney did not go after this gentleman and his insurance company. They went after the company he worked for and for whom he was employed and whose vehicle he was driving. It was Dictaphone. I think that's a kind of a normal thing that happens. That's probably why they went after ABC News, don't you think?
I would think ABC News, but I don't know. I mean, Jamie Oliver has money, but I would think I don't know. I mean, I want to see the lawsuit. Just like I said earlier at the top of the show, I talked about Wikipedia, and I said the best thing to do, look at the article, but the real way to learn something is to look at the external links and the sources that they quote, and then go to the original source material and then evaluate that. Is this something from a government study, or is this something from some, crazy person's blog? And so I would want to, in this case, I actually want to see the lawsuit, the actual allegations. Because as a newspaper publisher, I can tell you unless you could prove someone was out to get you, it's tough to win a lawsuit. Any thoughts on this, Margie, before we go to Alan's incredibly interesting? I actually put these topics in, but Alan understands them better than I do. Okay, Alan. Do not track. Go ahead.
So we have do not track coming to Google Chrome. This is almost a big snoozer, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think do not track itself is going to go anywhere.
We can just mention it and explain it and move on. I mean, it's
basically cool. The quick story here is that do not track is a web technology where your browser basically tells the server, hey, I don't think the guy who's actually running this, who's at the keyboard, really wants you to know who they are, even though I'm going to tell you who they are. So I'm telling you who they are, and you should forget that. And this is a technology that Google agreed to implement in their browser as one of their various settlements. It's a technology that all browsers are adopting, and it's a technology that nobody's quite sure what the servers are going to do with it. The best guess is that servers are going to not care. So I predict that this is going to be yet another internet technology that kind of silently disappears over the next couple of years, just like all previous attempts to do the exact same thing are going to have silently disappeared over the past 10 or so years.
So this is like that setting when you could send an email and you could say, let me know when the person gets it, but none of the things would adopt that, and so it's gone away.
Right. It's entirely voluntary. It's good to have because it's a nice standard for clients.
It was at the request of the Obama administration that they did it.
What was that, Dan?
It was at the request of the Obama administration that
I believe it was actually one of their settlements, one of their various settlements with somebody. And anyway, all of the browsers have already agreed to put it in. In fact, Internet Explorer isn't just putting it in, they are turning it on by default. Turning it on by default, however, violates the standard. So various web server companies have now come out and said, hey, if you're Internet Explorer and you come in with this turned on, we're going to ignore it because you're violating the standard.
So really the negative thing here is on advertising.
Yes. Except for the fact that, well, yes, it's on advertising, except for the fact that there are absolutely no agreements in place for anybody to figure out what to do with it. So browsers have to send it to the servers have to see it, but nobody has to do anything with it yet. So it's kind of going nowhere.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's talk. Is this your topic or Bruce's?
This is my topic. I actually added this, and I've seen very, very little reporting about this week. A certain percentage of users who are using iCloud, which is Apple's cloud-based synchronization service, experienced a lot of technical problems this week. And they started just before the iPhone rollout. I believe I've seen that they started around Tuesday, and they're only being resolved now. And some of these include using Apple's email service. So it didn't affect a lot of users, perhaps about 1 or 2% were some of the estimates I saw. But it took Apple several days to restore service. And a lot of people are going, hey, wait a minute, Apple's moving all of its stuff to the cloud bit by bit, but it takes them several days for an outage like this? That's pretty dramatic. So, some people are wondering if Apple really, really can handle cloud stuff. I think we'll see where this goes in the future. There isn't much more information about what's happened now, but it's a question. Let's see what Apple does.
Okay. Bruce, you're a big Apple fan?
Yeah. I choose not to back up to iCloud in order to save battery life on my phone. So I never became aware that there was an issue until this is the first I've heard about it tonight. So
right, like I said, it only affected a fairly small number of users, but I know one of the people who it did affect, right. And I've read reports that it did affect about 2%.
All right. Okay, so that is glad we got that one in.
Look, you want me to do more Apple bashing? I can do more Apple bashing if you really want.
That's our last topic, which we're up to. So, okay, so Apple had a little announcement this week. I'm gonna lead with Bruce here, because I know Bruce is a Apple fan of the company and their methods, the suicide tents, the whole deal. And they had a little shindig, new iPhone 5, and my thought was that the jump from the 4 to the 4S was a bigger jump. They should have called that one the 5 and this one the 5S, but it's actually, I guess, it's their 6th iPhone, right? And you like their products. You've used them. You have some issues with the company. I'm having fun with you, but they introduced. They're doing away with the Watch iPod, and they came up with two new iPod iterations here. The new Nano and the Touch, and some other things. So, on the heels of Amazon's announcement, and Amazon not announcing a phone, which was rumored, and then Apple not announcing an iPad Mini, although there's speculation that that's going to happen if it happens in next month. So that they didn't want to steal thunder. They don't want people. The Nano, the Watch Nano was a way to get $150 or whatever, or the Nano is a way to get $150 extra from someone who uses an iPhone, right? The iPad Mini will be a way to get more money from someone who already is going to buy the new iPhone. So it makes sense, in my opinion, if you're going to do that, to wait a month so that everyone, the lines form and they all buy the new iPhone, and then they buy the iPad Mini just in time for Christmas. So what are your thoughts generally on what they announced? And, let's start there. Like, what do you think about?
Well, I'm going to use a phrase that others have used. So it's certainly not original with me, but you talked about the move from the 4 to the 4S, and now we've got the 5. People have described it as being evolutionary, but not revolutionary. I think everybody was primed for more of a revolutionary product after the 4. And while the 4S has been an incredibly well-selling phone, I don't have a 4S. I have a 4. Which is kind of interesting that somebody can get an iPhone 4 now for free, get a 4S for $99, or go $199 and get the low-end iPhone 5. I think the 4S was enough to keep people in that world and that culture. I think the 5 has got enough evolutionary improvements that it will keep people who really like the iPhone there. I've said on this show before that this would be the last Apple device that I own. But you know what? I got to thinking about something else. Really, the phone works fine. I'm not sure, what I really need in the way of a phone. So this could be the last Apple device I own, because if it keeps working, I may keep it for 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure that I need another row of icons. I'm actually thinking more about maybe just hanging on to this puppy, and rather than updating to a Note 2 or a Galaxy S3, and instead following your lead and getting a Nexus 7 that I can tether with this if I need to. I think the biggest thing is probably the 4G. The camera's got the same specs. It's got a little bit of faster processor, but I think it was evolutionary. Probably enough to keep people in that camp.
I may have mentioned this earlier, Bruce, but I bought this case for my new beautiful Nexus 7 from Amazon for just $14. It's a Blu-ray.
Is this a drinking game?
It does this. It's Flipboard. It flips.
It's not a drinking game, but we would comment that there are people who bet on how many times we mention the Nexus 7 on the show every night, and I believe the official count is that's now the 6th reference.
I do it just now that it's become a meme of its own. But yeah, I think that this week, when it comes out, it'll have maybe the best camera. But I think the gap in ease of use, in intuitiveness, has narrowed dramatically from the earlier iPhones versus the earlier, the Android gingerbread. Now, competition's a good thing, and it's a fierce competition. And Jelly Bean, I really, I have to rely on people because I've never bought an Apple product, I'm proud to say. But Jelly Bean's fantastic. And I'm hearing a lot of folks who have used both say that that there are a few apps on one, a few apps on the other, but I think it's a good competition. It's healthy, and that S3 is great. The Samsung S3 and the HTC Oleg's a big fan of that. But there'll be a line wrapped around every Apple store, to buy this thing. There's some breaking. Final thoughts on this, and then there's some breaking news involving Google that I'm going to.
I was just wondering if people will ever get tired of the iPhone. I mean, it's not changing in design. At some point, don't you just get tired of it? I'm like, Androids are getting better and better and better. I'm like,
but
really
people are
need
used to it. What I said when we did a special thing on the day of the announcement, Margie, and I made the flippant comment, but I think it's true. In the end, it said, okay, so the Redskins fans are still Redskins fans, and the Cowboys fans are still Cowboys fans, and it doesn't matter because they're used to that. If you are, I mean, there's a learning curve involved.
You need to move to Android.
I mean, really, there is. If you like the Samsung S3 or the HTC or the new Nokia thing, or if you like the iPhone, there isn't a dramatic difference between them. There are some apps here and there, maybe one's a little faster, one has a better camera, whatever. But basically, why switch if that's what you're used to? If you have like Craig Shipp, I don't blame him. I love Craig, but he's so into Apple, it makes me want to vomit. But that's what he's used to. He's got a MacBook Pro. He's got all these Apple computers. He's got every iPhone he's bought. That's what he knows.
I understand that.
And he's not a tech geek either. He doesn't want to have to. He's a businessman. He does well with his business. He doesn't want to have to learn.
I guess I don't care so much about Apple because, it seems like when the iPhone first came out, it was just, hey, this, hippie thing, all the super rich kids are getting it. They're getting the MacBook Air, and then they're getting the iPhone. I didn't care. I'm like, most people, I'm happy with what I got. They weren't worried about it. And then social networking, when they started on Facebook and Twitter and everything, when you would update, it would show you updated from an iPhone. So it became a status symbol. So I don't really care about, Apple and with a status symbol. I'm like, if you have great tech, that's fine. If people are using it and they're getting what they need to get done, no issue, no problem with that. But I'm not in love with Apple because it's Apple. It's this big status symbol that people have to have something from Apple. So, I think Android is great and it's getting better and it's just as fun or better in some ways than the iPhone. So, to each his own.
I think that's the summary. To each his own. And I think if you're used to one, why switch? Except Android's better. Okay, so let me a couple things here, and then your final thoughts after that. Two stories that have come out today in the last few hours since I did the list. Google Apps. This is on TechCrunch. Google Apps says goodbye to Internet Explorer 8. Pulls support for the browser. They announced today that they will no longer support Internet Explorer 8 and lower. This will affect everyone using Google Apps, business, blah, blah, blah. The drop of support officially starts November 15, a few weeks after Internet Explorer 10 launches. Okay, so all they're saying is, Alan, that they're not back supporting 8 and lower. They're not dumping IE, right?
Right. Well, I mean, they're not supporting 7 and lower right now. IE8 is what's required for apps and most of the other advanced Google services.
Okay.
So they're just saying they're dropping support for 8. Probably that means they've looked at their stats and they realize that nobody's using 8 anymore anyway because either you upgraded to 9 or you're going to upgrade to 10.
Or hopefully upgraded to Chrome. But anyway. Okay.
Well, Google is at least somewhat pragmatic. They know that, IE is losing market share, but they have at least some market share.
Oh yeah, I mean,
pretty significant market share still.
Oh yeah, people who use DSL and iPhones use Internet Explorer. Okay.
Trust me, if you're using iPhones, you're not using Internet Explorer.
Oh yeah, Safari. Sorry. Okay. This is really interesting. From Reuters, Google rejects White House request to pull Mohammed film clip. The internet company said it was from Reuters, and I'll put a link under the video. It's not up there now, but it will be by the time you're watching this if you're not watching it live. The internet company said it was censoring the video in India and Indonesia after blocking it on Wednesday in Egypt and Libya, where U.S. embassies have been stormed by protesters enraged over depiction of the Prophet Muhammad as a fraud and philanderer. If you're well, you've seen this because we talked about this in the very beginning of the show. On Tuesday, the ambassador to Libya, the U.S. ambassador, and 3 other Americans were killed in Benghazi. Google said it was further restricting the clip to comply with local law rather than as a response to political pressure. That's interesting. They said that's interesting, Bruce. That kind of changes things. That changes our debate to a degree. They said they were complying with local law, which they do everywhere. As I said earlier, when they were in China actively, you couldn't search Tiananmen Square and get the same results in Beijing you would get in California. We've restricted access to it in countries where it is illegal, such as India and Indonesia, as well as Libya and Egypt, given the sensitive situations in these 2 countries, the company said. This approach is entirely consistent with principles we first laid out in 2007. White House officials had asked Google earlier on Friday to reconsider whether the video had violated YouTube's terms of service. Google said on Wednesday that the video was within its guidelines. U.S. authorities said on Friday that they were investigating whether the film's producer, I can't pronounce the name, a 55-year-old Egyptian Coptic Christian, that means basically an Egyptian Christian, living in Southern California, had violated terms of his prison release. He was convicted in 2010 for bank fraud and released from prison on probation last June, and a major news organization reported that he wrote the script in prison. So, I don't know. I don't want to get into a big thing here. I would just say, I don't know, someone tweeted, it said, so an Egyptian makes a movie and they're protesting against Americans. And after Americans helped liberate Egypt and Libya from brutal dictators.
I just want to say one thing about this entire general thing. And that's that, all these different countries are attacking these U.S. embassies. And apparently that's okay. But imagine if we did the exact same thing to the, Egyptian embassy in the United States, everything. Like, as upset as we are about the embassies being attacked overseas, these countries would be, 10 times as upset if we started protesting against their embassies and started throwing, fire bombs at buildings and trying to run over gates and, cause general mayhem.
What'll really be news, Anthony, and then I'll go to Margie for final thoughts, is if this thing keeps erupting and if they end up pulling it. Because then it won't be because of laws or something. It'll be because of political pressure, that sort of thing. Margie, final thoughts for this Google Plus week? Anything interesting that you saw or happened to you this week or anything?
Well, the most interesting, strange thing is this whole thing about, Libya. My last thing I was trying to say about that was, if people are pulling it or they want, pressure for Google to pull it and say it's going against Google terms of service, or they're saying that it's hate speech. Is that what they're trying to say and trying to get it pulled? So I'm just going to
They're saying it's actually illegal in those countries to depict or denigrate the Muhammad. It's actually against the law.
Okay, but I can, understand if they pull it in their country, they probably want it pulled everywhere. But that's about it. And just wondering if people are if people just get inflamed over goofy, silly little stuff on YouTube. I'm like, there's so many bigger things going on in the world, and I don't know.
Yeah, this all started, and then I'll go to Bruce next. This all started because these terrorists wanted to get us on the anniversary of 9/11, the 11th anniversary of 9/11, and they drummed up this. They looked around and found this video that had probably gotten 1,000 views, and whipped these people up into a frenzy and used that as a distraction for this well-planned terrorist attack against a a very popular in Libya ambassador, as we saw from the signs generated. And here we are, then it blew up, and now these people, but I don't think they represent the majority of citizens in these countries. I think most people, like I said earlier, just want a regular life. Bruce, final thoughts on this Google Plus week?
Oh, listen, love the internet, love Google Plus, love the free exchange of ideas. And the only other thing that I would say about this week, if you're going to have Marines guarding U.S. embassies and consulates, for God's sake, let them have bullets in their guns.
They have bullets in their guns?
Not so. No, you're wrong. No.
Really?
Well, no, they don't carry them in there. I mean, they
I don't
can
think
get
that's
to them
accurate. I grew up in embassies, and I used to live next to the Marine House in London. And they're elite. They are elite Marines. It's a tough gig to get. It's not like a Navy SEAL or something, but that'd be news to me. I would think that someone guarding U.S. diplomats on the property of the United States at a foreign mission would
Google
have a
it
gun
and
with
see how
bullets.
many places and under certain situations they are not loaded.
I imagine that the remnants of the Tunisian and Libyan and Egyptian embassies right now probably have a few bullets.
Yeah,
Even
well,
in-
we've got some people on the way to Sudan and a couple other places too. But no, listen, I love the internet, I love the free exchange of ideas, and I love being on the show. It's exciting.
It's nice that none of us want to kill each other, even if
That's
we have
true.
a mild disagreement.
That's right.
Anthony Klauser, final thoughts from Rochester, New York.
I always have so much to say at the end of the show every week. So
I apologize. Your light bulb burned out. That's a bummer, I know. But he's probably because I picked on him, Bruce. I picked on him so many times about all the cans he had behind him that now he's dimmed the lights in his studio. Anthony, always a pleasure to talk to you. Alan Firstenberg in New York. Any final thoughts on this pretty interesting and long for lately Google Plus week?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I don't know, yeah, it's been a pretty good Google Plus week. I had a great hangout that I got to watch this week with two people who I love to follow. Their names are Andrew Looney and Kristen Looney. They run a company called Looney Labs. Honest to God, that's the name of the people and the name of the company. They are a game company. They produce a bunch of really cool games. I used to spend time with them when I lived near them. Haven't seen them so much in the past few years, so it was great to watch them do their first hangout on air and talk about some of the new products that they're working on. So that's fun, and that's the kind of thing that I really want to see more of in Google. Are people who love what they do, love to talk about what they do, love to share what they do, and you get this kind of infectious feeling when you watch them talking about these things. So, you can't watch Andy and Kristen talk about the games that they write, the games that they play, without wanting to play them. You can't listen to Fraser Crane, for example, talk about watching through a telescope, looking at stuff, without wanting to get a telescope and go look at Saturn or Jupiter or the moon. That's the kind of exciting thing that I love to see in Hangouts on Air, is watching people talk about what they love. And I was fortunate this week to watch the Loonies talk about what they love. Next week, I hope to find something else equally fun and exciting.
I am inspired, even though Loonies was in that sentence. That's good. Alan, thank you so much.
Thank
Anthony,
you, Dan.
Bruce, and Margie. And thanks so much to you folks who watch. We really appreciate it. We're here every Friday, and I'm going to continue the Hangout, but I'm going to end the produced version, which goes up to YouTube. But I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and all your questions and all that fun stuff. That's my favorite part of the show is the reaction we get from folks who watch and interact with us. So thank you very much. And I want to wish all of you as I get my mouse ready, I want to wish all of you an epic Google Plus week.